everyone, how are you? So today I want to give you my review of My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This is volume 1 of a 2-book series. The second one is just My Favorite Thing is Monsters volume 2. This one came out in 2017, so I'm a little bit late. The second, I believe, came out in 2021. And Emil Ferris is an American graphic novel author. This, I believe, was her debut, and it is incredible. So, as per usual, I'll give you my overall thoughts, and then I'll give you a little spoiler alert. So, just to give you the TLDR, first of all, look at how beautiful the artwork is. Okay, I won't give you too many sneak peeks, but this is the diary of Karen Sanchez, who is a 10-year-old kid, 10-year-old girl from 60s Chicago. So I've never been to Chicago, but I've seen some other reviewers saying that the areas depicted are true to form, especially with the 60s. And so for that, I can only give kudos to Emil Ferris, and I can only believe them. So essentially, so the main plot line, there are quite a few intertwining storylines. The main storyline is that Karen's downstairs neighbor, Anka, is found dead, and now it is quickly ruled a suicide by the cops. But a lot of people in the building, and so Karen follows suit, believe that it was actually a murder or foul play or something happened, but it was not suicide. So Karen, being a very curious 10-year-old, decides to investigate to see if she can figure out what happened to Anka. There are a few intertwining storylines. The first thing you should know, I should have mentioned, is that Karen lives with her mother and her older brother, Dees. And so Dees is, I believe, at least 10 years older than her, maybe a little bit more. And the dad is out of the picture. I think he was abusive, something happened, but he is out of the picture. I forget specifically what, but he is a violent guy, so he left. Sorry, I had a brain fart. The first thing that happens, this isn't really a spoiler, but Karen's mom finds out she has cancer. Karen is questioning her sexuality, so it is never explicitly said. Karen doesn't really understand. She just says, I noticed that all the girls are looking at boys, and I'm more interested in spending time with other girls, type of thing. I don't think that she herself really understands. I'm not sure, but I don't get the sense that she does. Also, this is 60s, the 60s, so I don't think that she would have had any role models who are or were lesbians. And I think maybe that she might have heard people or heard of people being persecuted against for that reason. So maybe she was like, surely this isn't it. I don't know. It's frankly, that is such a minor part of the storyline, but such it is. Then there's this other storyline that Karen is kind of bullied at school, not necessarily for her sexuality, but just because she's a weird kid. She likes wearing trench coats. She likes monsters, which is a huge thing that I'll get into in a second. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you. This is the back of the book, and this is how Karen draws herself in her diary every time that she includes herself in it. So yeah, she sees herself as a monster. From what we get, yeah, she's always wearing this fedora hat, trench coat. So, and all the girls are, obviously moving on to, I don't know, wearing girly stuff and whatever. She meets this other girl, other weird kid, and it kind of goes somewhere, but again, one of the things that I didn't like about this book, even though it was great, is that some of the storylines kind of disappear, such as the one with Karen's friend. She meets someone at school and she goes to her place for a play date, and then she kind of vanishes. So Karen is very interested in art, and actually Dees, her older brother, is the one who brings her to a lot of museums. They go and do a lot of stuff. There's a whole section, a whole painting that she saw at the DIA. She talks about how Dees is explaining to her how to look at a painting, how to understand the inspiration. So, not to give you too many spoilers, but like there's a painting which is the Nightmare, not Nightmare, but Night Space Mare, which inspired Mary Shelley. So it's a lot of things like that, which are really cool. I think the idea is that Dees would take her out to do stuff so she wouldn't be affected by her dad, who was violent. And you do get, so a thing I'll say is Karen is 10 years old, and I've heard a lot of criticism from people saying it's impossible for a 10-year-old to understand so clearly or so deeply certain adult themes that are discussed in this book, such as Anka's story, which, yeah, I'm gonna leave it for the spoilers section. But I think that sometimes we tend to underestimate kids' ability to understand certain things. I think also, in some regards, she might have drawn things in such a way that we as a reader interpret it one way that might not have been her intention as a kid, or maybe we read into it more. As adults, maybe we are able to read between the lines more. Maybe there's a little bit of that. To be frank with you, aside from when she's talking about some of Anka's, in-depth story, it didn't really bother me. I think it's fair game to say that a kid can understand art, can understand interpreting art, and especially when she's quoted as having spent so much time in museums, reading comic books, with her older brother kind of, mentoring her on art. Just to give a final recap before I get into spoilers, this book is for anyone who needs... This book, it really touched something within me of my inner child, because in a way, I think Karen... So people say Karen can't understand certain concepts because she's a 10-year-old kid. And maybe so, but I do think that a lot of the things she tells us about and a lot of the way she views the world does speak to that kind of childlike wonder that we as adults have lost somewhere along the way. And so I think this book is perfect for recapping kind of that childlike wonder and just learning to see the world through glasses that you might have put down at some point in your life. So let's get into spoilers. Spoilers! Spoilers ahead. Okay, so at your own risk. So let me first, to give people time to click off, let me go through, because I tabbed a few things in the beginning, because, once I got to this part, I just kind of... Oh, and I also wrote down every single artistic reference I could find. Man, there are so many. There is The Nightmare, Frankenstein, Diego Rivera, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. There is Andy Warhol. There is... I'm not going to read them all, but yeah, it's just Oedipus. I mean, there's a lot. The Nightmare. Oh my god. First of all, can we appreciate the art, like the pen work, and also I really want to say she actually only used ballpoint pens, right? With a black, red, and blue and green pen. Oh my gosh, it is so incredible. Never mind, there's a yellow. Okay, I wrote here, I love this. The drawing of the DIA painting plus Garbogusty commentary. If you don't know, Garbogust is an event where you read trash in August created by Criminality. So the part that I said was Garbogusty is Let me see. Oh yeah. My brother claims that the painting is sexy. He says I could think of it as history's first horror comic cover. And considering the whole arithmetic of boobs plus monsters equals horror, I guess it's probably right. Sexy. Okay. Yeah, it's incredible because you really do get adult appreciation of something from a child's lens. I do think, though maybe Karen thinks a little older than her age, I do think that there still is that child kind of innocence to it all that lingers there. And also, I think it suggests that she really did go through trauma, because we know that kids who go through trauma at a young age tend to mature faster and, think more like adults faster. So probably from her dad. Probably from her dad. Oh, here we go. So here is Dee's all tatted up and teaching Karen. You see, she's like, from day one, he was there for her. And I wrote, it's almost as if the author is speaking through the third wall about inspiration. So the way Emil Ferris talks about, or the way she writes Deeze's dialogue of him talking to Karen about inspiration very much feels like she is telling us, the audience, where her sources of information are from. Because essentially Karen is writing this, but Emil Ferris is writing this. So who's talking to who, Yeah, it was beautifully done, beautifully done. And I forgot to mention earlier, I thought it was really significant that there really is only one moment in this whole book where Karen actually draws herself as a human as she is, when Deeze gets so pissed at her for being so insecure. This is when she is describing to us Anka's story as she's hearing them on the tapes. How wonderful is it to show that you carry the characters of books with you, to carry you through your sorrows, trials, and tribulations. A bit repetitive, but I'll accept. Celeste, speaking specifically of Miss Havisham, and then Gregory Samsa. Oh, Gregory Samsa. I forget what book Gregory Samsa was from, but she does talk about Miss Havisham from Great Expectations, who is completely brokenhearted. And you get the sense, okay, Anka is basically let down and exploited by every role model or every figure of authority, if you want, in her life, from her mother to the brothel owner to, during World War II, obviously everyone became a snitch during the Nazi invasion. So basically everyone, and she was on her own from day one. And then the guy who, the Nazi officer who, I guess it's kind of terrible, but really the man who saved her life was a really high profile Nazi officer, dude. So that's gotta be tough. That's gotta be tough. Until eventually, obviously, she gets murdered by Deeze, who was a guy who, you get the sense that she was looking for solace in him, so there must have been something going on between her and her husband. But again, where she goes to find comfort and love, it turns against her. So poor Anka, I feel so bad. This is really, I love this one where she's, hold on, yeah, we can see it, where she's looking down at the star. This is the part that I think might have been a little bit far-fetched for Karen to understand. Not because I don't think she's able to understand the concept of treason and looking for safety and love, but I just think that to understand this, there's a prerequisite that you understand the events of World War II and things such as when the Nazis invaded, everyone became a snitch, for example. So I think there's like maybe some historical facts that you wouldn't have known as a 10-year-old. And then, is that it? Man, I really flew through this thing. All right, we did that one. I thought I had more. There we go. Oh, this one was Starry Night. Oh, this one is so beautiful. What did I write? Oh, basement equals surrealism and kitchens equals impressionism. And that's when she was writing. Mom and Dee's were in the kitchen like normal, but it wasn't normal. Around every day of my life, I've eaten my breakfast to the sound of the shuffling of Anka above us, singing in German and dancing with her cat. Like I said, basements usually smell like surrealism, but kitchens and gardens almost always smell like impressionism. Now, isn't that just so thought provoking? Um, I don't know. What do I think of that? Golly, I gotta think about it. Because our kitchen is part of a basement apartment, it smells like the early impressionism of Vincent van Gogh. Oh my gosh, and his strokes of umber and ochre. A perfect, great, I love you smell. Oh, I forgot about these little details. This is so incredible. I mean, honestly, see, this is the part. Okay, let's be for real. Here's the part I think works here. I think that maybe there are some concepts that Karen doesn't understand because she is a kid, and so we, with our adult minds, read between the lines in maybe ways that she didn't necessarily say up front. However, however, and I think most adults will say this happens, but I think we all know that when you grow up and are affected by the real world and have to do stuff like file your taxes and pay your bills and whatever, you lose that sense of whimsy. And I think this book features a sense of childlike wonder that we as adults are incapable of seeing. But yeah, there were so many moments like this where she talks about art in such a deep way that I just love. Hold on, I just thought of something because I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I like that Deez was the killer. I think it would have been more interesting to have Anka's husband be the killer because then it would be the most tragic thing because then every single person she put her trust in would turn against her, right? Pretty aside from a few in her life. But then it got me thinking, no, no, no. I think Deez had to be the one to have done it because he is such a mentor the whole time. And so he does, I mean, he is shown as having flaws, right, with being a ladies' man and whatnot. But I think it has to be like someone close to Karen. But then I thought I saw similarities, right, between Karen and Anka. All male figures of authority are violent humans, but the difference is that towards Anka, it's like it's violence towards her, whereas with Karen, it's violence to protect her, right? Although the Nazi guy did use his, or he like offered her a layer of protection with his like letter of recommendation, I guess. I don't know. That's interesting to think. But there is, now that I'm thinking about it, more and more correlation between Anka and uh, Karen. Hmm. Interesting. So about the whole monsters thing, there are a lot of characters in this book that are drawn as monsters and a lot that aren't. And so the second she shows someone as a monster is the second she sort of acknowledges that their actions really are their bad actions are because they're good people to whom bad things have happened, but she recognized them as a good person is what I mean. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole monster thing? Because I don't think Deez was shown as a monster in this, but she has so much admiration for Deez. Um, oh gosh, actually, hold on. Let me read this passage. So this floored me. and really touched me. When we first find out that her mom has cancer, I don't think the word cancer is really ever said in this book, but just the storytelling is phenomenal. Where she just writes, so it's the beginning of a thing where there's one of those covers, right? So it's the beginning of a chapter, you could say, almost. And she writes, "Dear Notebook, I'll tell you straight, in my opinion, the best horror magazine covers are the ones where the lady's boobs aren't spilling out as she's being attacked by a monster. Those those ones give me something worse than the creeps. I think the boob covers send a secret message that it is very dangerous to have breasts. And considering what Mama is going through, maybe the magazines know stuff that we don't." Just see, this is what I'm talking about when I say, I think when Karen says things like that, she doesn't necessarily understand what's happening, but we as an adult, as we're reading this, kind of project our knowledge of what's happening onto Karen. But I don't know, that I just get the sense that her childlike wonder that we lost to compensate for what we understand as adults that she might not already have. Just so good. So good. And the artwork is amazing. So I hope you liked the video. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!